Hello guys, Omni here. This week, pretty much everything except Black Lightning is on break. So if you haven't seen this week's episode of Black Lightning, be sure to tune out and come back what you have because we will be talking about some spoilers in regards to this week's episode. So that being said, last warning before we dive into the spoilers. So here we go. So not a lot happens action-wise. We got a couple of sequences here. Khalil in the episode gets stopped by some Markovians when he's kind of doing his runaway Bruce Banner thing until he gets beaten down by, overwhelmed by the amount of soldiers that are fighting him to the point where Painkiller is able to get out of his cell and take control. And then it becomes a battle of wills once again. This time, however, Khalil is the one that gets thrown back in the cell at the end of it. So that leaves that whole thing wide open. We learn some more about Gravedigger's past, why he has that name, which is actually pretty interesting and kind of honorable in a way, but he's still got this messed up past. We have a few other revelations, but we'll get to it here in a second. So essentially, if Jefferson and his team are not able to defeat Gravedigger and his Markovians, the government is willing to completely sacrifice Freeland in this whole situation and just nuke the entire city and just blame it on an accident. The ASA is just too underwhelmed after all of their, occupations to really kind of be this strong force. We got the rebellion that's been going on, factioning up against the ASA, who's not quite up to par, and then pretty much just Jefferson and his metas that we're getting into this. Now, Lynn reveals in this that her serum, she left samples of it back in her lab in Markovia, and we see that Gravedigger has been able to acquisition those and find those and put them to use. The ones that allow them to temporarily transfer meta-human powers into non-metas. And we learn that because he is technically this world's first meta, his genes allow him to permanently assimilate whatever power he gives himself. So he has the potential, with that research still being there, to steal and take on and assimilate any other meta's powers. So he is researching Jefferson's team, and it seems like he's picking out his targets because he goes through them one at a time. Black Lightning, Thunder, Grace, Erica, and Brandon. All with some fairly intense powers if he were to acquisition them all. Whatever he had there at the time, he's able to give himself telekinesis at least. He's able to move things with his mind now and project shields, which comes into play later. We also reveal that Lynn talks to Jefferson later, that we find out this big thing, that it turns out that his blood matches Jefferson's. They're related. He's his great uncle that fought in the wars that nobody ever said died. He just said he fought in the wars, never came back. And turns out that's his great grandfather or great uncle. Sorry. And that's why that Jefferson, his metagene, as well as their daughters, were able to stabilize because they share that genetic makeup. So that poses an interesting threat. Lynn even asks him to break his rule and kill this MF if they aren't able to hold him off or stop him. Eve meets with Odell, tries to barter for her place back on their little shadow collective with the briefcase. Aside from that, Lala's doing some other stuff. Jeff even goes to Lala to try to get his help with combating the Markovians, but he turns them down. Lala's just being stupid. All that stuff I could honestly care less about. Like, I don't know what's going on there. It doesn't tie into any of the larger threats. It can just go walk away and go away with it. Anissa becomes engaged with Grace, and she has a dinner party where she invites everybody over to tell them the news. And not only are they engaged, but because they're going off to fight the Markovians later within this time period, they decide to go ahead and do it, and Gamby is going to officiate the wedding. So they rush right into that, and I get it. It makes sense. They've been kind of building up to this for a long run, but they definitely just rushed back into it. And they do make a point of it, saying if we weren't going off into this fight, they probably wouldn't have had the ceremony this fast. During this whole setup, Jen, on her own accord, has met with TC and asked if he could track all the communications and all that stuff to let her know first before everybody else when Gravedigger approaches and gets near Freeland. When they do, it's in the middle of the party and Jen takes off. The party doesn't realize it until later when they get the alerts that Gravedigger's alive, and she goes full firebomb mode and takes out at least all of the troops that he had with him in that scene, takes them all out, but he's fine. And he's like, I got this, I got you. And she zaps him, like in the middle of his sentence too, because he's trying to talk her over, talking about all the atrocities that metas have undergone under the ASA, under the US government, all this stuff. And she just goes straight for the kill move, but he blocks it with his telekinesis and basically bounces it back on her and then flips her into the barrier that is still erected around Freeland. And she just gets fried by this thing. Short circuits the barrier, drops it, but the electrical shock flings and fires her back towards the city. Once the team has been alerted that she just went off on her own once Gravedigger showed up, Jefferson comes in. They think a missile's coming in from him, but it ends up being Jen's body as he's able to catch it and land it safely. He has to jumpstart her heart back, but she's fine, burned to crap, but fine. And then in a fit of rage, Jefferson sees Gravedigger, sucks in all the electricity around him, and is just a Sonic the Hedgehog ball of lightning and just charges at Gravedigger while Gravedigger charges at him. And it just cut to black. That's our episode. This episode is one of the ones that is the easiest to get through as far as recapping. There's one thing I did forget. Brandon revisited Jace and kidnapped her, took her back to his apartment where he's just got her tied up while he's playing video games, threatening her life until he gets answers. I thought that was kind of funny. I tried, I could go back, but I was trying to see what game he was playing, but I didn't recognize it, at least initially. So who knows? But it was a fun little moment. I like the bits of this episode. I am curious of what they're going to do with Khalil in the long run, because this kind of ping pong back and forth of him and Painkiller, that can get old real quick. So I hope they resolve that down the road. Anissa and Grace making some progress in their relationship was really awesome. This revelation about the Pierce's lineage being tied to the original meta, I still think it's weird that there is an original meta in this case that is that recent, and of course on US soil, but still, that being said, ties into our main family. Because every meta, at least prior to this, on the other Earths were either alien or created by dark matter from the collider exploding, or the black hole that was created in Central City. Because that's where you got the primary source of all the metas, at least. As far as I remember, there wasn't any pure-born metas in Earth 1 before Crisis, pre-Crisis. But then you had metas in abundance on Jefferson's Earth and the Freeland Earth. I forget their number designation. And then again, you just had aliens, period, on Supergirl's Earth. So I'm curious how that all changes here, because we still see them being created in various ways. All of it irrelevant. Anyway, I like the episode. I still like the character interactions. I like this cast. I like the way they the chemistry they have with each other. I like this iteration of Jefferson Pierce. And I like what they're doing with it. I'm still pretty tired of this Markovian arc. I want it to be over. I want us to be on something completely different. But I did enjoy the episode. I don't know what's happening with Lala, Odell, and Eve. This triangular circle of betrayals going on, and where that's going to go from here. But all in all, decent episode. I like the character progressions where we're seeing things go, and seeing the action kick off against the Markovians and Gravedigger, and we'll see where that goes from here. So guys, what did you think of the episode? Let me know down in the comments so we can have that conversation after the video. Thank you all for tuning in. If you like the video, support the channel by liking, commenting, subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Take care, everybody.